Well, good morning to everyone. Good to see you here today. Merry Christmas to everyone. And I know that we were all a little bit scared that it wasn't going to happen, but we did get a white Christmas today, so that's awesome. Now, for those of you who are praying next year, I guess we need to be more specific. Pray for snow, not fog, but it's still white, so that's all right. It's still Christmas no matter what it looks like on the ground, right? I want to begin with a question today. And the question is this: what is the greatest gift that anyone could ever give to you? Now, I know it's Sunday morning and it's Christmas and you guys all secretly know the answer, but pretend it's like a Thursday morning in August or something. What would you say? What's the greatest gift that someone could give to you? Is it breakfast in bed? There we go. An honest answer, yes. That is among the greatest. Indeed, yes. But it might be a breakfast in bed, right? It might be $1 million or some, one of the greatest gifts I ever got, I remember this one, was a Voltron sword. I don't know if you know who Voltron is, but he's awesome. It was a cartoon from when I was little. It was hard to beat that Voltron sword. That was awesome. What is the greatest gift that anyone could ever give you? But think about it deeply. We'll come back to that. We were, the kids and I picked them up from school, and we went shopping the other day for a gift for Tabitha. It was her birthday on Thursday. And so we went out, and we had that question on our mind. What's the best gift that we can get for mom? And, there were probably better ones we could have picked out, but they were all $1 million, so we didn't get the actual best gift we could. But we got some things. And but we had that question on our mind. We wanted to give something that was meaningful, that would be received with joy, that communicated something. That's what gifts do, right? They communicate something. It's not just a transaction. It's a communication. It's communicating love. It's communicating a relationship, reciprocity. And we were looking for the perfect gift that was also affordable. And we came up with some pretty good ideas, and we found some stuff. And each kid kind of picked their own thing that they wanted to give to mom. And it was awesome. And, it's hard enough shopping for mom or shopping for your wife. But imagine if you were shopping for Jesus. That's a little bit more difficult. That's like the situation these guys are in Matthew chapter 2, these magi. That was the text we read this morning. In Matthew chapter 2, they have to decide, we're going to visit this great king. What are we supposed to bring for him? What are we supposed to give him? And of course, we see in verse 11 that this is Matthew chapter 2, verse 11, after coming into the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother, and they fell to the ground and worshipped him. Then, opening their treasures, they presented to him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Gold, frankincense, and myrrh. That's their choices. Now, I guess probably I have picked out gold before for Tabitha. Never frankincense and never myrrh, though. But those are the gifts that are given to Jesus. They must be really important, really awesome. That's what they chose to give to this great king that they recognize. And, people talk about who are these magi and that sort of thing. We talked about it in more detail a couple years ago when we went through the Gospel of Matthew. But nobody even knows, where are these guys supposed to be from, or, what are they, or who are they? Are they magicians? Are they priests? Are they the king makers? And, there are some theories about all of those. Are they from Mesopotamia? Are they from Arabia? Are they from Persia? Nobody knows. But the point is that they are here because they recognize that Jesus is king. And maybe they are priests, and maybe they are king makers. And they're here to make public and official this king. this king of the world. And they do that by giving gold, frankincense, and myrrh, and they do that by falling on the ground and worshiping him and presenting these gifts. Now, that's a cool enough story, but I want us to see kind of what Matthew is doing in this text about giving Jesus these gifts. And as Matthew's telling this story, I think that he has other texts in mind as he's telling this story. We've seen throughout the Gospel of Matthew that he constantly is quoting texts from the Hebrew Bible, texts from the Old Testament. That's all he does. This is to fulfill that. This is because of this text in the Old Testament. Well, he doesn't do a direct quotation here, but I really think that he has in mind this text in Isaiah chapter 60, which is a really cool text. In Isaiah chapter 60, as you can guess, doesn't have anything to do with Jesus. It's the prophet Isaiah. This is a text about people who are in Babylonian captivity, coming back from Babylonian captivity, and God giving them these important promises. But as you move through the Old Testament, you see people like Jesus and Matthew and Paul and all these people say, yes, it does have something to do with Jesus. There's a ton of stuff in these prophetic texts that have something to do with Jesus. And I think Matthew is telling us that here in this text. When he tells the story of these magi who bring gold, frankincense, and myrrh, I think he's saying, that sounds like Isaiah 60. And as he thinks about Isaiah 60, I think he's saying, that sounds like the story of Jesus. And let me show you why. This is a story about light, about blessing. Here's what he says in Isaiah 60. Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord has risen upon you. For behold, darkness will cover the earth, and deep darkness the peoples. But the Lord will rise upon you, and his glory will appear upon you. Nations will come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your rising. Does it sound familiar yet? This is the story that Matthew's telling in chapter 2. Verse 3 again. Nations will come to your light, kings to the brightness of your rising. Lift up your eyes round about and see. They all gather together. They come to you. Your sons will come from afar. Your daughters will be carried in their arms. Then you will see and be radiant, and your heart will thrill and rejoice, because the abundance of the sea will be turned to you. The wealth of the nations will come to you. The wealth of the nations will come to you. A multitude of camels will cover you. The young camels of Midian and Ephah, and all those from Sheba will come. They will bring gold and frankincense and will bear good news of the praises of the Lord. This is a text about the gospel, the good news, the praises of the Lord. And it even says, specifically, they will bring gold and frankincense. Now, this is a text talking about the nations coming to those who return from captivity and how God will bless them in great abundance, and the nations will come to them and shower them with gifts and stuff. But as Matthew tells the story, he has this text in mind, that the nations represented in the Magi come to Jesus and give him good gifts, bring him gold and frankincense. And if you think myrrh is missing from the text, it's secretly there. It's there in that word, Sheba. Sheba, if you remember, was the place that was famous for making and exporting myrrh. That's what the queen of Sheba does when she comes to Solomon. She brings gold, she brings precious stones, and she brings spices, myrrh. So gold, frankincense, and myrrh, all three of those are in this text here. And so it's a text about, Matthew 2 is a text about these guys coming and giving gifts to Jesus with echoes of Isaiah 60. Matthew saying, look at this great promise of God's people coming out of exile and receiving the abundant blessings and gifts of God. That is this. That's happening in the birth of Jesus. But as we all know, this is not just a story, not even primarily a story about these guys coming to Jesus to give gifts to Jesus. It's a story about God giving a gift to us, to humanity, to his creation. So what is the greatest gift that someone could ever give you? We might all think of something different. What is the greatest gift that someone could ever give to all of us collectively as humanity? I think that's God's question. I think that's God's Christmas question. What is the greatest gift I can give to the people whom I love, the ones made in my image, to my creation in general? And what is it that we need as we look throughout all of human history, as we look at us as humans, as we look at the way that we have related and not related extremely well to each other, and at times thrived, at times hurt and destroyed and harmed each other. What is it that humanity needs most? Well, one of those, I think, is peace. One of the greatest gifts we could receive as humans is peace. That's what this fourth Sunday of Advent is about, peace. That's the theme of this fourth Sunday. One of the greatest gifts we can receive is peace, and that's exactly what that text in Luke 2 was telling us all along, that in this child, peace comes, and joy. Of course, we all long to be those who experience joy. Joy is so deeply central to our innate need as humans. Joy is what keeps us going, along with hope. If we don't have hope, it's hard to... hope is the thing that motivates us, that gives us a reason to even live in the first place. If we don't have hope, then we don't have anything. And love, of course, is one of the greatest gifts that we can have as humans. Imagine a life without knowing love. Matthew and Luke and the gospel writers say Jesus comes to show and to give love, the greatest kind of love. And forgiveness. We all know that one of the greatest gifts that we can receive is forgiveness, because you've probably received it before when you had no business receiving it, didn't deserve it. That's why it's called forgiveness. Imagine living a life without being forgiven by the people that you love the most, that the people you've hurt the most. One of the greatest gifts we can receive from someone else is the gift of forgiveness, and at the same on the same note, reconciliation. Coming back together, being rejoined with in a relationship that has been severed in the past. And of course, there are gifts that we all would love to have, like wisdom or truth. Those are so important to humanity. And I could keep going with this list, but even this short list, love and joy and peace and hope and forgiveness and reconciliation and wisdom and truth, all of those and much more are combined in this one person, Jesus. God is trying to give and does give the greatest gift possible that anyone could ever give us collectively as humans, us individually as people. And all of that is combined and wrapped up in this little baby, wrapped up in these swaddling cloths that we read about today. All of it is combined in Jesus. And Jesus, as he grows up, as he becomes a man, he doesn't walk around and say, I'm God's greatest gift to humans, although he could. Sometimes David Tucker says that, but it's but he doesn't say, I am the greatest gift ever. What he does is say, what can I give for the people whom I love? What is the greatest gift, Jesus says, that I could give? And what does he discover? The greatest gift is that of his entire being. He gives his whole life. He gives his very life. That's what he gives. And that's why it's called the gospel story. In the giving of his life, in that mindset of him saying, what is it that I can give? He knows that he is called to give everything, his entire life. And that's the person that we believe in, that we've given our lives to. The one who is the greatest gift, but who says instead, I want to give of myself. That's who he is. And that's who we model our life after. That's who we model our church after. The one who says, what can I give? And gives it all. So on this Christmas week, snow or not, I want to invite all of us to reflect on these questions. Yes, what is the greatest gift that I could ever receive, that we could ever receive, and give praise to God because we have received it in Jesus Christ in his birth. But an even more important question, the one that Jesus asked, the one that God asks, what's the greatest gift that I could give? What's the greatest gift that I could give? For Jesus, it was his very life. And for us, it's as close as we can get to that. But the greatest gift we can give to one another, to those outside in the world, the greatest gift is to give of ourselves, first of all. And secondly, to give the gift of this gospel story to others. So as we celebrate Christmas, let's think about this. Let's think about ways that we can give of ourselves to others and give this story of the good news of Jesus. Let's stand and sing.
Let's stand.